And the topic of today's video are the three common mistakes that keep you stuck with anxiety. So, I really want to talk about anxiety. You guys know by now that I cover three topics: anxiety, depression, and bipolar disorder. But more importantly, how to get free from these things. Okay, so everybody is talking about management and what to do to live with anxiety, depression, and bipolar disorder. I think that's a waste of time. I don't want to live with anxiety. I want to know how to get free from it. That's precisely what I did. Is I was able to get free from bipolar disorder. I was able to get free from very serious anxiety disorders as well as depression. And now I'm here to walk you through the process. And so if that's of interest in to you, then stick around, because there's three things that you may be doing right now that are causing this thing to go around. And so I want to let you know. And first, let me also just remind you who I am, because I think it clips that part of the video. So this is Stacey Rivera with Achieve Emotional Mastery. And so just letting you know again who I am. And what we do is help you achieve emotional mastery. Pretty simple. So if that's what you're looking for, then again, stick around. And so one of the things that you have been exposed to is you have been told over and over again, especially with anxiety, that you're stuck with it, that you have to live the rest of your life dealing with anxiety, that the only thing that you can do is manage it. That's what most folks are told. And in the traditional arenas, this is what you're going to be told over and over again. And so I'll just be honest. Sometimes when people find me, they're like, "What? You mean that I can actually overcome this?" Yes, absolutely. You do not have to live with this for the rest of your life. Now, if you succumb to the lie, the myth that's being told over and over again, that the only thing that you can do to manage, then guess what happens? You will be stuck indefinitely. You will be stuck doing the same things that you're doing now. Maybe you'll pull a few tools that'll help you manage, but they will not help you overcome. And so one of the things that most people do not realize is that they continually are being given management tools. There are more and more tools just for managing the situation, things to help them to be able to function in life, to be able to work and take care of the kids and fulfill ministry roles without allowing the anxiety to go so over the top that it destroys their life. And you can stay in that pattern indefinitely. You can just continue to manage for the rest of your life. But I know that's not what you really want. Your heart all this time has been saying, "But I want freedom. I want to finally be free from this. I want to be able to wake up in the morning and feel peaceful. I want to be able to wake up in the morning and feel excited about the day." So many people that are dealing with anxiety, when they wake up, the very first thing that they experience is worry and fear. And it comes on like a Mack truck that they cannot stop, and they're overwhelmed before they know it, and they don't know what to do. And again, they just have management tools. And so let's talk about this. So there's three common mistakes that most people do and fall into when they're dealing with anxiety. And the problem with these three mistakes is this will keep the cycle going and going and going and going. And so the next 10 years look like the past 10 years, or however long you've been in this mess, your future continues to look exactly the same. Hey, maybe some days they're a little better than others, but this set pattern keeps going and going and going and going. And I just want to let you know right now, again, with anxiety and really with all the mental health issues, generally, most people, what they experience is they have bad days, things are really rough, and then they have good days. And the good days give you hope because you're like, "Hey, it's actually getting better." But the thing is that if the good days don't last, if the good days don't turn into months, if the good days don't turn into years, then you have this pattern that you must break. And so if you are going in and out of good days and good seasons, and it keeps coming back to these days where you wake up overwhelmed or the next thing happens with anxiety, then I need you to know that there's hope for you and that you can overcome completely. As in, you can beat this anxiety for not only today, but for next week and the next month, and you can continue on in a life in freedom. And so there are, again, three common mistakes that most people use that just perpetuates the cycle. And honestly, as I wrote this list, there are so many directions that I could go with this. There's so many things that I could say about the mistakes that people are making. And I see it all the time because people reach out to me and they're like, I really want to break free. And so they tell me about the things that they're doing. And I'm like, well, yeah, no wonder why you're still stuck. And so if you give me seconds, I want to write down another topic that I want to tackle. And so let me dive right in. The first thing that folks do that continue to perpetuate the cycle is believing that this is normal. What do I mean? Many folks that are dealing with anxiety and have been dealing with it for a long time will say something like, yeah, but everybody deals with anxiety, right? And so the thing to do is really evaluate what's going on. What kind of levels of anxiety are you dealing with? How deep is it? How long has it been going on? And really, is this normal? Now, all the clients that reach out to me, well, I shouldn't say all, most of them, I'm going to say 80% of the clients that reach out to me for my assistance, they're at a place where they know anxiety is no longer normal. And again, they've reached out to me. Why? Because they want to get to the place of overcoming completely. And so that can kind of clue you in. But I do see things in the Facebook group and other places where people reach out, and you can tell that they're really trying to stay in this zone of continuing to tell themselves it's okay, it's okay, it's normal, it's normal, it's normal, it's normal, it's normal. And part of you has to do this because you need to survive. And so the first part of any mental health challenge is surviving. In fact, that's what got you the mental health problem in the first place. It came out of some kind of trauma that you had to survive, or it came out of some kind of circumstances with your family, and whether or not that was abuse, or whether or not that was just a rough childhood of coming out of divorce and your parents fought all of the time. But I see this all the time, these kinds of patterns in those that deal with anxiety, is you dealt with some rough stuff. Usually it started as a child. And in order to survive that, the anxiety rose up and you learned how to deal with anxiety, a lot of times with behaviors that you no longer need. For example, with obsessive compulsive disorder, you may have picked up hand washing or lining up things or list writing or something that is normal, but you've taken it to a level that is not normal because you're trying to keep the anxiety in check. That's what OCD does. And it's a way of surviving the anxiety is by developing new techniques and behaviors that keep the anxiety in check and it keeps it from overwhelming you. And so now you have like a whole different set of problems. That's what happens with OCD. Well, most folks that are dealing with anxiety, again, the reason why they've developed such concerns with anxiety is that they were first trying to survive something. Now that they've survived it, these behaviors and things that they have with anxiety is no longer serving them. And it's actually getting in the way of the rest of the goals in life. And you know this to be true. If you are dealing with anxiety, then you know how it is that you can function, you can get by, but getting by isn't what you really want. What you really want is to push into that next level. You really want to be able to do the things that God has called you to do, and you can't. Why? Because anxiety is in your way. You spend so much energy and time and thought into keeping the anxiety in control and keeping it in check and fighting with negative thoughts or trying to stop the overwhelming thoughts, the overthinking. You spend so much energy and time in this that you're not able to pursue the things that God really has for you. This is a problem. This is not normal. This is not okay. And you can fix it. You absolutely can fix it. And so, again, the first mistake that most people make is that they call this normal. They call something that is not normal, normal. Okay. And so, anxiety is not normal. Now, a little bit of nervousness, sure, we all deal with nervousness, or we all deal with things that get us a little riled up, and we have emotions are fine, but anxiety is a whole other thing, and anxiety is not normal. Everyone does not deal with anxiety. Okay, everyone deals with emotions, everyone sometimes gets worried about things, but anxiety is a whole different deal. And again, you had to survive, you had to get through, and so this is developed, but now it's not normal, and now it's standing in your way. And if you continue to call it normal, it will continue to stand in the way for the rest of your life. And so the first thing is you got to just look right at it. And I really encourage you, I am all about reflection. If you will take time to reflect on your life and to think about what's really going on, then you have a fighting chance to finally change the story. But if you keep playing the same story over and over again, you never have an opportunity to change anything or to get the tools into place that will allow you to overcome completely. And so, again, take an honest look at it. Really look at what's going on. When does the anxiety come up? How bad is it? What is it disrupting? What is it standing in the way of? And really, really look at, like, is this normal? And again, those that come to me that actually fight for their freedom and move on, they go, I don't get it. I don't get why this area, this scenario created so much stress and chaos for me when my other friends are dealing with much worse situations, but it's a breeze. And it's the difference between healthy emotions and not healthy emotions. And anxiety is in the camp of not healthy emotions. It's not healthy. But again, you're not stuck. We can fix it. Okay, let me share the second problem. Okay, so the second common mistake that most people make with anxiety is that they default to band aids. Okay, and so think about this. So if you have, let me like give you an analogy for it. Okay, if you have a festering wound on your arm, so you have a cut and it is now infected and it's festering and it's pussing and it's disgusting. What are you going to do? You need to go to a doctor and you need to have a doctor look at it. And quite possibly you may have to have surgery. I had a friend that actually this happened to. It was a spider bite that got infected and he had to go into the doctor and actually had to have surgery to clean out the wound so that he could live. If he would not have done that, it would have caused him, it would have been fatal eventually. And my friend could have just put on a little band-aid, cut a little nice little cheap band-aid box and put on a little band-aid and went, I'm fine. And this is what we do with anxiety all the time too. We Google stuff. We're Googling. We're like, what do I need to do to keep my anxiety in check? And is so much information for this. Like if you want a band-aid, if you just want to manage better, if you just want to make this thing a little bit better, Dr. Google is your friend. Okay. And you can find some breathing techniques and you can find ways to make your meditation stronger. Prayer verses, which I love prayer and I love the Bible, but there is more that you need to know than just prayer and Bible in order to fix this. I talk about this all the time, so catch another video on that. But it's not just prayer and Bible that you need in order to beat anxiety. There's a whole lot more to it than that. And so again, that's just a band-aid. And I could list on and on all the different band-aids that people use all the time to deal with anxiety. And the truth is that all these solutions, all these techniques, they're in the management category. And I am betting that if you are watching this right now, you are already managing just fine. You already know what things work to keep it in check, right? You know that if you've had a really bad day and you've had circumstance happen and anxiety is rising, you know what things you can do so that you don't lose your lid, so that you don't actually have a full-on panic attack and wind up in the ER. Most of the clients that I serve, that's where they're at. They know how to manage it. Or they have medication for the panic attack or whatever, but they know how to manage their life and get by. You don't need more management tools. You do not need more management tools. What you need is a solution and to know how to overcome completely and how to heal completely. That's what I do with the clients that I serve. Okay, so let me give you the last big blaring band-aid that many people use that again will just perpetuate the cycle. This one will make the cycle worse. And I want you to hear me out completely because I'm going to talk about medication and I need you to hear the whole thought, not just part of my thought. Okay, so medication actually makes the whole situation worse. I was just listening to a clinical psychologist on a talk about this, about why are we subscribing medication when what it actually does is it makes the person almost guarantee that this is going to be year after year after year after year after year after year. You got me? Clinical psychologist, okay? But we don't offer any alternatives. Instead, what we do is just give them medication. Now, medication has all kinds of problems in itself. And what I want you to know right now, okay, so if you're listening, I see that somebody is with me right now, is that I am not saying you go off your meds, okay? What has to happen first is healing. Healing happens first. Then you talk to your doctor about weaning off medication in a safe way that is monitored. Okay. So by no means I'm saying get off your medication, but I do need you to understand that there are dangers in medication. And all you have to do is a little bit of research to know that there's medication. And problems with medication, and you know this, right? When you get a script from your doctor, which they love to give you, right? You get it home and you look at the back and you're like, oh, I might grow a sixth toe. Are you kidding? Right? I mean, like, like the side effects on medication are very, very serious. And so what happens for most folks when they get on medication for anxiety, first of all, it doesn't deal with the root of the problem, period, which I'm going to talk about next, but it doesn't deal with the real reason that you're dealing with anxiety. All it does is alter the brain chemistry slightly and just help you manage better. But what medication does is it brings on a whole other all kinds of other problems. And so I see this again. I talk to many people throughout the week that are looking to get free from anxiety, depression, bipolar disorder, and they will tell me about the problems that they're having with their meds. And normally, what they're doing is they're trading one problem. They're managing the anxiety just a little bit better, but now they've got all these other problems that come from the medication, from problems with their sleep to making the anxiety actually worse with the medications. Like, if you're dealing with anxiety, you do not need problems with your sleep, right? It also gives brain fog. Brain fog is one of the number one symptoms that people, when they reach out to me, they're like, I'm dealing with anxiety, depression, and brain fog. And a lot of times the brain fog is directly related to the medication. I've seen some very, very serious side effects from medication, including weight gain and sexual dysfunction. So you tell me, do I want to take a medication that's helping me with my anxiety but causing sexual dysfunction? Or do I want to overcome it completely? And so, again, this is the second common mistake that people use, that they fall into when they're trying to figure out what to do with anxiety, and that's use band-aids. And medication is like the number one. It's hugely problematic. And I know you may have never been told that there's another way. I know I hear this all the time when clients reach out to me. They're like, I'm so frustrated with my medication and I'm so frustrated with this anxiety. And all I'm told over and over again is all I can do is manage. Just manage the thing, manage the thing, manage the thing. And then you'll have well-meaning, loving Christians in your life. I'm a Christian too. I'm not down in Christians. I'm just saying, like, again, here you got to hear the whole thing. Okay, I'm very strong in my faith, and what I do with my clients is I walk them through biblical principles that gets them free. Okay, so I'm not down in Christians. I'm just saying, unfortunately, sometimes our well-meaning friends that are trying to support us through the process don't know what to say, don't know how to help us. And so what they'll say is something like this: well, maybe you just have to deal with anxiety for the rest of your life. Maybe it's the thorn in your flesh. Have you guys heard that? I mean, I wish I could get paid every time I hear the thorn in the flesh bit, because I would be very, very wealthy. That is the most common one that people will say to one another. And again, they mean well, they're trying to encourage you, but it's not encouraging you. To encourage you that you have to stay stuck for the rest of your life is the exact opposite of encouragement. Okay. And I'm here to give you hope that you do not have to live with this thing for the rest of your life. It is not a thorn in your flesh. It is actually something that you can absolutely overcome, but you do need a solid strategy. So again, that's the second common mistake that folks make is by going to band-aids instead of actually dealing with the problem. And the third common mistake that I see the most often with folks dealing with anxiety is failure to address the real problem. Okay? Failure to address the real problem. So, a little bit of a rabbit trail here. It's so interesting to me that a lot of times when people reach out to me and they say, I've got this problem with anxiety, and they say the reason I am anxious is because 3 months ago, da 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 da. You fill in the blank, and if you're watching right now, you have something like that. 3 months ago, da 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 happened, and that's why I'm anxious. And my question always is, okay, what happened before that? So rewind 6 months ago. Were you anxious then? Well, yeah. Then it was da 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 da. Okay, great. Rewind 2 years ago. Were you anxious then? Yes. Then it was this, 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 this. Okay. Anxiety is a problem that if you have it, it is a pattern. It's not because of that coworker. It is not because of COVID. It is not because of marital strife. It is because somewhere along the way, and again, going back to what I was talking about earlier, a lot of times we develop this early on. We have to, because we're survivors and we're fighters. And so it's something that we developed early on to be able to deal with the situation and survive. And so we developed anxiety, and it set off this pattern and over and over and over again. And so again, I would just have you evaluate your life. Like, are you really anxious because of these one circumstances? And the answer is always no. I have never ever met anybody that, like, oh, in the last 2 weeks they just developed anxiety. No, it's never ever like that. And so if you do not address the real problem and just look at it as, these circumstances are creating the anxiety, you will continue to go round and round and round and round again. Because what will happen is this one particular circumstance may change, but then what you'll find is, again, a couple weeks later, you're like, oh, the anxiety isn't actually gone. And then there's some other new circumstance that's creating anxiety again. Why? Because the problem isn't the circumstances. The problem is that you have a pattern, that you've developed anxiety, and you've developed like this way of basically viewing the world is through this anxious lens. And again, we can fix this. We can change this. We can solve this. Okay. And then the other thing that's missing, so again, under this umbrella of the third common mistake that people make, which is failure to address the real problem, is that what is the root of the problem? What is underneath the anxiety? Have you ever thought about that? Like, what's really causing the anxiety? And we use words like worried and frazzled, and I'm overthinking, all of that. Yep. What's underneath it? Every single time it is fear. Every single time it is fear. And if you do not learn how to address the fear, this thing will go round and round and round and round, and you never heal. You have to know how to address the fear. And so a lot of people go the wrong way, right? They're just trying to deal with anxiety, the anxiety, the anxiety, and it's like this big thing. And it's like, if we just go to the root of the problem, and we address the fear, then everything else changes. And if you really, again, time for reflection. Like, you test me. Like, am I right? Am I speaking the truth about this? Think about the things that really worry you, the things that you're thinking about all the time. All the time I hear folks worry about their health or the health of a loved one. What's really going on? If I'm worried about my own health, I'm not really worried about my own health. It's just noise. What I'm really worried about is I'm afraid that my health is going to break down to the place that I will not be able to provide for my family. That's a real and legitimate fear. But the other part was just anxiety, was just noise. And so just look at that. Like, what is it that you overthink the most about? And think about what's really going on. There's an underlying fear. And now here you could even go off to the right again, off on the wrong thing. Okay. You could be like, oh, well, if what I'm really afraid of is making sure that I provide for my family, let me focus on that. But again, if you don't break this cycle, if you don't break this pattern and learn some tools for dealing with fear, then you will be stuck, because what happens is the next fear pops up, and the next fear pops up, and the next fear pops up. And the enemy of your soul is a fear dealer. He deals with fear. That's what he does. That is his job. And so you look at our lives, and we are never without fear. We can't be in a fear-free bubble, but we can learn how to deal with fear in a way that we are allowed to have peace in our life and in our heart that's steady peace in our heart. And you know this, if you are a Bible believing, strong of faith person, you know what the Bible has to say about fear and what the Bible has to say about anxiety. And so here's another really interesting thing about folks that are dealing with anxiety. All of the folks that I have worked with are strong in their faith. And they knew the scripture here, but they couldn't figure out how to get it here in their heart. Like, how do I wake up with that peace? How do I feel that peace? And so that's something that I help my clients with. And in case you've missed it, so I have a masterclass where I talk about the 5 shifts my clients have used to heal completely, to again, overcome anxiety, to overcome depression, and overcome bipolar disorder. That's what I help my clients with. There's 5 shifts, okay? And the only way to heal completely is to heal emotionally, physically, and spiritually. There's 3 parts to this. And again, if you look at the different things that you've been exposed to and the different things that you've tried, you'll notice you've never had one person walk you through exactly what you needed to do to heal emotionally, physically, and spiritually. Now, you may have gone to the counselor who helped you with the emotional part, and you may have gone to your pastor who helped you with the spiritual part, but you haven't ever worked with one person who is an expert at overcoming in this specific area, walk you through what you needed to do emotionally, physically, and spiritually. I know that for a fact because you're watching this video. My clients are walking in freedom. They don't watch my videos. They don't watch these videos. They have other content to get to. Okay, so let me share a little bit about how this looked for me. Okay, so again, I've shared with you the 3 common mistakes that keep you stuck with anxiety. And these were the same mistakes that I did. These were the same mistakes that kept me in that cycle for the longest time. And so I was dealing with some very serious things. Bipolar disorder was very much the top of the list. Okay, which, if you know anything about bipolar disorder, you know that the psychiatrists tell you to hang it up. There's no hope, right? There's nothing you can do. Unfortunately, pastors generally aren't equipped to help either. And so, even in my spiritual community, so at church, I didn't have any hope there either because they didn't know how to help me. They just didn't know what to do. And so, again, I was dealing with bipolar disorder and some very serious anxiety disorders. Now, the thing to know about anxiety is this is a huge umbrella word. It covers a lot of things. There are many, many disorders that fall under this category. And so I had several of these that were very serious, and I was diagnosed with those. And I did the same things that you do. I did all the traditional stuff just to function better. And that part's important. It really is. Like, you need to be able to function well. You need to be able to work. You need to be able to be in ministry. You need to be able to raise your kids. That's important. But the clients that come to talk to me, they've already managed, they're already functioning, and now we're taking them to the next level. And so again, I did all the traditional things to manage well, to get by. And what I realized was everything that I was doing, what really was a band-aid, right? It was just for management. And there was a point where I'm like, okay, I'm managing well, but this is in the way. The cycle, the pattern, the anxiety, depression was in the way of doing the things that I wanted to do. Not so much like, oh, I'm important, I want to do things. No, there was things that God called me to do, and it was standing in the way. And can you reach back and help others and inspire others and encourage others while living a life with anxiety and depression? Absolutely. Absolutely you can. And people do it all the time. You see it all the time. You'll see blogs of I'm living with anxiety and I'm wonderful. Yeah, you can. But how much more can you accomplish when you're free? And that's where I'm at now. I am able to accomplish so much more now that I'm walking in freedom from the anxiety and depression and free from bipolar disorder. So today I'm completely off my medication. I'm walking on healing, and now I walk others through the process. And there is a specific process that you need to follow. Okay. I know this is the other thing, that if you're watching this, you may be like, I don't know what to do. Yeah, of course not. Of course not. First of all, no one's even talking about healing being possible. Healing is possible. Overcoming is absolutely possible. Not only have I done it, but I've walked other clients through the process. And here's the truth: God has more for your life. You are not meant to live out the rest of your days while underneath the weight of anxiety and depression. This is not your lot in life. This is, if you are living out a life while under the weight of anxiety and depression, this is against the will of God. Like, look at the Bible, look at what it has to say. This is not the will of God for your life. But there are some things you're going to need to learn in order to break free completely. And yes, you can heal, but again, you need a proven strategy. And so I mentioned earlier, I talked about the masterclass just briefly. If you've never watched it, like, this is you're popping on first video. Hi, I'm Stacy with Achieve Emotional Mastery. Nice to meet you. And what I would love for you to do is watch our masterclass, which I cover the 5 shifts that are essential if you want to overcome this, and if you want to overcome this in a timely manner. Unfortunately, most folks, because they've been dealing with this for so long, and because they've been dealing with counselors for so long, they think that it will take years to get free. And that actually is also not true. If you know what exactly to do, you can accelerate your progress. What it took me years to do, because I was trying to figure it all out, it takes a very short time for you to accomplish if you're all in. Okay. And so, again, you have to be all in, and you have to be committed to the process. And every single client that I've served has been that way. They are, and again, I know that if you're dealing with anxiety, that you already are a fighter and you're already a survivor. And so it's time to take that energy that you are using right now just to manage the situation, just to get by with your life and put that energy and commitment and thought into healing. And again, the very first step is going to be the masterclass. That's at stacyrivera.com/freedom, which is the link that you see in the title below. And what I want to do right now is, because you've stuck it out with me and you've watched this and you've heard again the 3 common mistakes. If you feel like, you know what, I'm making these mistakes and I'm tired of this. I'm tired of just going through the motions. I'm tired of just managing the thing. I want what you're talking about, Stace. I want to be able to wake up in the morning and know that today is going to be a good day, and know how to be able to address my fears, and know how to have that peace in my heart, that deep peace and that joy in my heart. That's what I'm looking for. Then I'm going to invite you to book a call. And you can do that at stacyrivera.com/call. Let me let you know kind of what that looks like. You're like, what? We're actually going to meet. Okay. And I'm going to hear about your situation, and you're going to share with me, what exactly are you dealing with anxiety? I told you before, anxiety is a big umbrella thing. So are you dealing with overthinking? Are you dealing with some kind of other habit that you've picked up that, again, was because you had to survive, right? When folks do things like line up their essential oil bottles all in a row, and they keep their cabinets all in a row, that's out of keeping anxiety in check and a survival mechanism that no longer serves you. It's now getting in the way. And so if that's something that you want to give up and overcome, then reach out. And so again, I'd like to know about what's going on with you. And what we're going to be doing is just determining whether or not our side, whether or not I am a good fit to help you overcome. Our team is very good at helping folks overcome anxiety and depression and bipolar disorder. But there are some things that we'll need on your end. It's not magic. It's not for everybody. And so we'll have a conversation to figure out whether or not this works for you. And I'll just let you know, I'm very upfront. So if we have a conversation and I talk to you and I'm like, I, you're not ready for this yet, I will make sure that I give you some encouragement as well as what the next step would be. And then you can come back later and we can talk. And so just that you know that. So you're like, hey, you're not going to lose anything. What you always gain is value. And so if that's something you're interested in, is a valuable conversation about how to finally beat this thing for the rest of your life, then I'm inviting you to book a call. Again, that's at stacyrivera.com/call. I look forward to talking to you. Thanks so much again for listening. Again, one more time, this is Stacey Rivera with Achieve Emotional Mastery. Have a great evening.